Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are with us this morning for the first time, we are glad you are here. I'm Reverend Sharon Wiley, Chalice's minister. Our worship musician this morning is our music director, Tim McKnight, and our song leaders are David Peel and Jennifer Savion. Welcome to this online worship service. If you are new to online worship, let me orient you a little bit to this experience. On your Zoom menu is a button that says chat. Chat is where we talk to each other during the service. Some people have been greeting each other there already. So some congregants love the chat function and use it throughout the service, which you are welcome to do. And some congregants don't like the chat box and find it distracting. So please know that you are in control of whether your chat box is open or closed. You just click on that word chat on your menu and that opens and closes the box. For those of you who do like to use the chat, please be sure that when you post there that you've used that little blue menu to select panelists and attendees. If you only post to panelists, you're only posting to me, and I probably won't see it during the service. So I encourage you to post to everyone so we can all see what each other are saying. So this is me standing at the door of our little chapel, greeting you on Sunday morning, giving hugs. Since I can't hug you, please give yourselves a big hug of hello and welcome. I want to especially welcome those of you who are newcomers at Chalice. In addition to this online worship, I want you to know that many of our groups and activities continue to happen online as well. Activities like our women's book club, men's breakfast group, support groups, religious education for children, all of these and more happen online. You do not need to be a member to participate in our groups and activities. They're open to everyone. So if you're new to Chalice and would like to learn more, you're invited to stay in this Zoom room after the service ends for our newcomer chat. So now let's take a breath together. I want to start our service just by naming, I feel like I've been doing this every Sunday for years, but this was a difficult week, and we have time to share our sorrows in a few minutes. But I want to name how heavy on my heart is the death of Jacob Blake. And then later in the week, the death of Chadwick Boseman. And I'm sad. And I'm glad to be with you this morning. Each year in June, Unitarian Universalists across the country gather for our annual General Assembly of Congregations, typically beginning on a Wednesday evening and concluding on Sunday morning. This gathering is for shared worship, learning, and for the conducting of denominational business. This year's General Assembly, GA, was held online, and 12 Chalice congregants and I attended. Our service today brings back some of the highlights from GA, the things we wanted to share with you. The words of our call to worship come from Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennyson. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Let us worship together. Please join in singing. I might have said I might have said the death of Jacob Blake a few moments ago, and of course I meant the shooting. He is not dead. If you have a sorrow or worry you would like to share with the community this morning, you can share it in the chat box. These won't be spoken out loud, but please feel free to respond to each other in the chat. This is the time to share sorrows and worries. We'll share joys later in the service. We have some music to listen to, and if you would like to light a candle for sorrow in your home, this is the time. May our sorrows be lessened. May our burdens be lightened. In sorrow and challenge, may we know ourselves always held and never alone. May we act to extend our warmth to all who are hurting in our wider world. The 2020 General Assembly was planned to be in Providence, Rhode Island. As UUA President Susan Frederick Gray described it, this was the 400-year anniversary of the arrival of the Mayflower on these indigenous lands. The intention of General Assembly was to interrogate this history of colonialism, colonization, and our own role in it as a faith tradition that originates in part in colonial America. Although we did not end up gathering in Providence, the theme of our General Assembly remained, and numerous speakers and workshops called us to develop right relationship with indigenous peoples, those of us who are not indigenous. In that spirit, our story this morning comes from the Pueblo people of the Southwest. Although there are stories to share from our local Kumeyaay tribes, they are not illustrated, so I chose this one. We will still recognize the prominent role of Coyote in this story.
Coyote and the Sky is a Tamaya Pueblo creation story about animal people's journey to the fourth world. The author of this telling, Emmett Shkemi Garcia, is a member of the Santa Ana tribe. A long time ago, the animal people decided to make a journey up into our world, the fourth world. Back then, where we lived in the underworld was called Shipap, or the third world. The animal people went to the leader of the third world and asked him for advice. What should we do when we get to the fourth world? And he gave them great advice about how they should all stay together and watch out for one another. But there was one animal that leader didn't allow to join the other animals on their journey: Coyote. This was because he was always making mischief or trying to trick someone out of food. When everyone was ready, they started to make their long journey. The animal people began to climb and climb up into the fourth world. When they arrived, it was very dark. They could not see anything and kept bumping into one another. They were scared. What should we do? They asked each other. The animal people huddled into a close circle. They decided to send Rabbit and Squirrel back down into the third world to ask Leader for more advice. "There is no light in the fourth world. What should we do?" cried Rabbit. Leader took some time to think about their problem. Then he began to build a big fire, and while it was burning, he began to make a yucca mat. When he was done, the coals from the fire were nice and hot and glowing. Leader used a stick to put all the coals onto the yucca mat and tied them into a bundle. He told Squirrel and Rabbit to run quickly with the bundle up into the fourth world. When they reached the other animal people, they opened the yucca mat. The animal people grabbed each corner of the mat and flung it into the heavens. The glowing coals came together into a big circle in the eastern sky and became our sun. At last there was light. How beautiful it was! But then the sun began to move across the sky to the west and soon disappeared, and it was dark again. Now what should we do? The animal people once again huddled into a small circle. Again they decided to send Squirrel and Rabbit, because they were the fastest, down to the third world to ask Leader what to do. This time he made an even bigger fire with bigger coals. While it was burning, he made another yucca mat. When the mat was done and the coals from the fire were red and hot, Leader took the coals and put them onto the mat. Leader tied the mat into an even larger bundle. It was very heavy, and Rabbit lifted the bundle with all her might and ran up to the fourth world with Squirrel leading the way. When they reached the animal people, they untied the bundle. They took each corner of the mat and with a great effort flung it into the heavens. And this became our moon. But still, it wasn't bright enough, and something was missing. So Squirrel and Rabbit were sent down again to the third world to ask Leader what to do next. This time he made an even bigger fire and an even bigger mat. All this time, little did they know Coyote was hiding, watching, and listening. When all was ready, Lita wrapped the red-hot coals in the mat and told Rabbit to run as quickly as she could back up to the fourth world, with Squirrel leading the way. Rabbit could feel the heat from the coals, and even to this day you can see that Rabbit's eyes are pink from the heat. But Rabbit was very brave. She held the yucca mat out in front of her, and all she could see was Squirrel's tail leading the way. They did not know Coyote had come out of hiding and was following them up into the fourth world. When they reached the other animal people, Coyote was very angry he had not been invited to come to the fourth world. Coyote sulked behind a big rock so that no one could see him. When the animal people opened the big bundle, they asked Badger to draw pictures of each animal on the yucca mat with the red-hot coals. Badger began to do so with a stick. All this time, Coyote was getting angrier and angrier. Suddenly, he jumped out from his hiding place and grabbed one corner of the mat and flung it into the heavens. These coals became our stars. And if you look closely at the stars today, you can still see the outlines of the animal people that Badger drew on the yucca mat. These are our constellations. In some places, the stars are in clusters, like in the Milky Way. This is where Coyote messed up Badger's drawings. Finally, Squirrel ran back to the third world to tell Leader what Coyote had done. Leader decided to go up to the fourth world. When he got to the animal people, he told Coyote that he had been bad and must leave the fourth world. Leader put Coyote in a yucca mat and threw him up among the stars in the southeast corner of the sky. He sent Squirrel into the northwest corner of the sky to watch out for the future of all the animal people. Today, this constellation is known as the Big Dipper. This is how the sun, moon, and stars came to be. The end.
As we get ready to hear about General Assembly and people's experience there, I'm thinking of a comment I saw in the chat earlier about it being hard to find hope in these times. So I want to invite you to remember that a couple of months ago at the end of June, thousands of people of Unitarian Universalists gathered together for spiritual nourishment and learning together. And in that same way, millions of people across our country are gathering in groups, are organizing and coalition building. And all of that can be very invisible to us. But I invite you to remember that those things are happening and to take hope from the way that we're finding each other and working to affect change in our world. So this year's General Assembly will be remembered, I think, for three main things. The first, of course, is that it was held during this pandemic and was held entirely online. It was very well done, and it was the most affordable and accessible General Assembly we've ever had. I don't know what GA will look like going forward, but I don't think that we can continue to ignore the justice, environmental, and accessibility issues of expecting thousands of people to travel for an annual gathering. Secondly, our theme of confronting the history of colonialism, colonization, racism in the United States was the right message at the right time, as we gathered in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd and the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. And thirdly, this was the year that we received the final report from the Commission on Institutional Change. If you haven't been following this, bear with me, this is important. The commission was formed in 2017 with the task of auditing the processes and procedures of the Unitarian Universalist Association to try and root out overt white supremacy. Their report is titled Widening the Circle of Concern. There it is. It is available online entirely in PDF format. You don't need to buy it, but if you would like a hard copy, it is available for purchase from the UUA bookstore. This is an important report in the history of our denomination. This report's a wonderful summary of the Commission's very thorough and thoughtful work, and it includes concrete recommendations of things we can look at the congregational level. I encourage every congregational leader to read it. I looked at providing, there were workshops and lots of opportunity to engage with this material during General Assembly, and I looked at bringing like a clip of that here, and it didn't feel possible to bring a clip that would fit in our worship format, that wouldn't be doing a disservice to the larger body of work. But there's a whole hour presentation of the report and some of its recommendations online. And so I'll provide a link to that in our on our Facebook page this afternoon. So you can watch it for yourself, just like you were there. So you're about to hear from 5 of our congregants about their own experience attending GA this year. I hope each of you here will consider attending General Assembly yourselves in the future.
Hi, my name is Dean Gadet, and I wanted to share with you my experiences going to General Assembly a few months ago. First, let me set the timeline. Not long before GA, on May 25th, I saw the video of George Floyd being killed by the police. As you all recall, the following month was chaotic and stressful between the protests across the country and the pandemic and trying to make sense of it all. A month later, starting June 25th, I attended General Assembly virtually. I had planned to attend in person because it was near where I grew up, but it was moved online because of the pandemic, and I was a little disappointed. But on the second day, the innocuously titled General Session 3 COIC report really rocked me. The report was 3 years in the making, but it was as if it had been custom tailored for the moment. The report provided a clear framework for interpreting white supremacy and its impact, but also provided clear recommendations on how to move forward. It was humbling, coming to terms with my own inability to hear the voices that had been calling for change, things that were happening within the UUA and in the wider world. These things are not new, but the report made it clear that we just haven't been listening. My feelings aren't the issue, though. The report lays the groundwork for a path forward with recommendations. There's a lot of wisdom in the report, pulled from the experiences of people of color who have come to us and more often than not left. Hearing the members of the committee talk about the report really drove home the direct relevance to everything that was swirling around, both in the wider world, but also locally, and it had a big impact on me. GA has always been an inspiring experience for me, but this year was particularly relevant, and it provided a real framework and a path forward in this difficult time. I highly recommend that people attend GA virtually next year, but also plan for GA in 2020 in Portland. Thanks very much for your time.
Thinking about what stuck with me from General Assembly and what I wanted to share, my first thought was to talk about a great workshop on social class and classism. But they actually have a website that can do a better job, uuclassconversations.org. My second thought was to convey the overall impression of commitment to diversity and social justice, particularly racial justice right now. That was the focus of most talks and workshops. But even with general agreement about goals, I saw diversity in the styles and attitudes of speakers. And I saw in myself a willingness to listen carefully to speakers I liked, and to others, not so much. One speaker seemed really dismissive of a whole group whose ideas and approach they disagreed with. And for that, I saw myself dismissing that speaker instead of listening. And I think that is one of our challenges in creating community with those who seem different from us. This brings me to another excellent workshop, Why We Want and Resist Diversity. Reverend Keith Cron and Reverend Patrice Curtis talked about tensions within congregations around change. Sometimes diversity we resist isn't just in race or social class culture or gender conformance. It can be in accepting that everyone is on their own path and walking at their own pace. All kinds of differences can challenge us with the spiritual work of knowing our shared humanity. We're all adult learners, making mistakes, asking questions, and absorbing answers from different perspectives. General Assembly was really educational, including hearing from other Chalice congregants about their experiences. I wouldn't have traveled to attend, so I was grateful to experience it virtually, and I hope that they will maintain some virtual components in the future. I would attend that way again.
Hi, I'm Victoria Tenbrink, and I'm here to tell you about my experience with GA 2020. For me, committing to attending was a lot like committing to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship over 5 years ago. I didn't expect much. Both times, I walked into a smorgasbord of interesting people, new ideas, and some serious commitment to UU values. Since it was my first GA, I didn't feel comfortable being a delegate. That left me free to come and go. But every hour from the opening service at 6 a.m., you heard me, held something special. I didn't agree with everything that was said, but when I waited for it, more often than not, resolution came. By the closing ceremony, I felt less like an individual UU and more like part of not just one community, but many communities eager to interact with even wider circles of community. Confusing? You had to have been there. I also came away with a greater appreciation for the commitment of UUs to building the foundation of a beloved community from dismantled shards of individualism and cultural elitism. I saw Unitarians joining with others to raise a beloved community based on equality and justice. I can't wait to go again.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Braun, and my wife Sally and I have been members of Chalice for nearly 6 years. We've been Unitarian Universalists for nearly 40 years and have attended more than a dozen General Assemblies. We love the experience, each one unique. And this year, of course, it was more unique than ever. We were able to attend General Assembly without ever leaving our home. One of the most important things that we can do at General Assembly is to attend workshops. Here, we can be introduced to new and exciting ideas. For me, it was a workshop titled Community of Communities. It was presented by Paula Cole-Jones, a member of the All Souls Church in Washington, D.C., and an expert in organizational design. She's presented many workshops at General Assembly. Paula began by asking us to do something that was a bit troubling. That is to let go of a long cherished model that we've held for our congregations for years, me included. We like to think of our congregations as a family. For isn't it true that from a family we can receive strength, we can receive support, we can receive love? But Paula points out that there is a characteristic of a family that it can be a bit troubling. For how many of us have attended large family gatherings where we have felt compelled to leave a significant piece of ourselves at the door, believing that if we revealed that piece of ourselves to our family, we may no longer be accepted. Paula urged us to adopt a new model, one which congregations like Chalice have been growing into for years without ever really thinking about it. What Paula has asked us to do is think of our congregations as a community of communities. You probably guessed that from the title. So what was she talking about? Chalice, like many congregations, encourages its members to join the groups that we have within our congregation. For example, we have music and choir. We have religious education for teachers and students. We have youth group. We have teams for social justice work. We have meditation groups. For me, that's just to name a few. For me, I belong to Cracker Barrel, a men's group that meets for breakfast on Wednesday mornings. What Paula is asking us to do is to think about these groups as not just groups, but as communities within our congregation. Communities where we invite new members into that group with all of our passions, with all of our gifts, and leave nothing at the door. If we adopt community of communities as our model, and intentionally thinking of ourselves as that model, we could be intentional about our community's designs. In fact, we could ask ourselves whether or not there was a community that we need at Chalice, and then work hard to bring it into being. Paula concluded by sharing that she believed that if we adopted this model, it would be a significant step towards creating that beloved community that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. spoke so often about. And we, as Unitarian Universalists, have accepted as our faith's work to build that beloved community within our congregations and within the world. Yes. Attending workshops can be exciting, an important experience that we can have at General Assembly. Thank you.
Prior to this year, I had been to one other GA, and honestly, I was not that driven to attend another one. But I have to tell you, attending GA online was fantastic. I sincerely hope they continue to use this format. Aside from the joy of attending early morning sessions in my PJs, I was able to see and hear clearly what all the presenters were saying. There were references posted in the chat that I didn't have to scramble to copy down because I could save the chat. This made it so easy for me to maximize my learning. This GA encouraged me to examine how to live fully into the moral values and obligations of my faith. As a confirmed atheist, I have to tell you, that was quite a revelation, so to speak. For the 18 years that I have been a UU, I have known that this was the right place for me. But my articulations about why it was the right place were more vague and insubstantial than I would have liked. This GA showed me clearly that there is good, solid work being done to back up our principles. It encouraged all of us to be unflinchingly honest as we approach the social justice work that our faith expects. I am braver when I focus on what needs to be done in what Naomi Klein named our age of consequences. I think as a country and as a faith, we are living in what one commenter called a liquefied moment, a time when the norms are no longer applicable. Everything can change. In such times, we can teach the true histories and stories. We can be inspired to disrupt and dismantle long-standing and destructive aspects of our society. We can build a new way. And I am grateful that this GA challenged me to better and more actively incorporate our principles into my daily life.
We shared our sorrows earlier in the service. Now it's time to be heartened by the sharing of our joys. If you have a joy you would like to share with the community this morning, you're invited to share in the chat box. These won't be spoken out loud, but we will respond to each other in the chat. This is the time for joys. If you have a candle of joy in your home you would like to light, please do so now, and we'll listen to music while we do this. May our joys be multiplied. May we act to extend our warmth to all who are rejoicing in our wider world. Chalice is a robust community of people with diverse gifts and interests. We have many groups and activities that meet regularly, and we look for ways to be of service to our local community. Here is information about our upcoming canned food drive.
This is a hello to Chalice congregants. I'm speaking on behalf of the Social Justice and Service team to tell you about a volunteer opportunity that everyone can take part in. One of our charity partners, Interfaith Community Services, is in desperate need of non-perishable canned and boxed items for their food pantry. Before COVID-19, many of you made dinners for Haven House, got together after services to make lunches for Interfaith, or brought canned food items to Chalice and we took them down there for you. I imagine a lot of you are missing these volunteer opportunities. So we have a plan for a safe way for you to support this important organization in Escondido. For the entire month of September, we will be having a canned food drive, and all you have to do is bring your donations down to Chalice, and the boxes will be on the tables outside the main building, and we will take them to Interfaith for you. If you'd like to have suggestions of items that Interfaith needs, take a look at the link we will have in the e-news each week. And thank you for helping out with this.
Chalice is more than a place. We're a community of people. When you hear about activities like donating to the food pantry, then you know this is part of who we are. We are so blessed to have leaders like Chris who make this collection and donation possible.
Today is our monthly Social Justice Sunday, when we donate our offering to a local organization that makes a difference in our larger community. I'm Paul Courtwright, and I'll say a few words on behalf of the San Dieguito River Park for our social justice team. This Sunday, we're taking a special collection for the San Dieguito River Park, and Reverend Sharon will provide instructions for contributions at the end of my talk. The SDRP is one of the partners that we contribute to, both in terms of financial resources and in terms of activities. Chalice members have actively engaged with various projects, which I will mention later. The SDRP, as most everyone at Chalice knows, is the most extensive and well-used open space in Escondido and surrounding areas. It stretches 70 miles from Del Mar to Julian, with numerous trails, staging areas, and historical sites. SDRP aims not just to maintain this jewel at our doorstep, but to provide opportunities for young people, particularly from disadvantaged communities, to get out, to explore, to get dirty, to interact with, to understand, and to appreciate the natural world, which we all know is under threat from climate change. The SDRP have developed several guides on local birds, historical sites, and a new indigenous plant guide out soon. Financial support we provide the SDRP expands this work. As part of our UU mission to sustain our natural environment, over the last 2 years, we've organized work parties to maintain trails and to replant hillsites devastated by wildfire. And we're looking forward to engaging many of you on future work parties. So with these few words, I'd like to encourage all of us to consider how we can support the important work of the SDRP for our own use as well as for our future generations. Thank you very much.
So there are 2 ways to donate. You can make a donation directly to San Dieguito River Park. I put the link in the chat box. And when you do that, you can be added to their mailing list to get news and updates directly from them. If you prefer, you can text your donation to Chalice and we will forward the donations. To indicate that your donation is for this special offering, please text your dollar amount and the word justice, as this is our monthly justice collection. You'll see instructions on the next screen. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
There will be better days. 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 Let the wave wash over me. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am there will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over me. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over me. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over me. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am better days. There will be 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 better days.
I'm Elizabeth Lentini, and I'm the local area coordinator for the 2021 General Assembly to be held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The spirit of Milwaukee runs deep. It's not flashy, and it's certainly not glamorous. It's down to earth, and it can be both gritty and beautiful. It's also surprising. Did you know that Milwaukee has a history of socialist mayors? And did you know that America's Black Holocaust Museum was founded here in Milwaukee in 1984? Come, gather with us by the waters of Lake Michigan for the 2021 General Assembly and be surprised by the spirit of Milwaukee.
Hi, my name is Caesar. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a musician and the social justice coordinator for the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. Milwaukee has a spirit of resilience. I was born and raised on the south side of Milwaukee, full of community, culture, but also struggle. Milwaukee is often a tale of two cities, those financially stable and others dealing with various disparities and marginalized communities. I hope to empower my community through building relationships and finding new ways to create connections. An example of that community building is the Wisconsin Hip Hop Chess Club. It's a community organization that I help coordinate where we let kids play chess, teach them about the fundamentals of hip hop, including lyricism and beat production, and let them embrace their creativity overall. Milwaukee is a city of struggle, but also strides, and we've came a long way over the past few years in building relationships within the community with each other. Come see for yourself.
Greetings from Milwaukee. My name is Brittany Korth, and I am the Director of Event Experience here at Visit Milwaukee. I'm sorry I'm not there in person to greet all of you, but we are so excited and thrilled to be hosting the 2021 General Assembly in Milwaukee. Whether you're arriving early or staying late, there's tons of options for you to enjoy our city and also bring your family.
Our charter from the very beginning was to do something for everybody. So you can see classic rock on one stage, and you can see a country band on another stage, and you can see a hip-hop act on another stage. And what that gives people the opportunity is to walk around and see genres they really don't know. We have everything from the sports area to a children's play area where people can come down and the kids can have fun. During the day, there's plenty of cold beverage. You have 50, 60 of the best restaurants in town, so you can't miss out on that. It is the greatest music festival in the world. People come on down, experience Milwaukee for 4 or 5 days, and just come out and have a good time.
Oh, and there's this little thing happening next year called the Democratic National Convention. Milwaukee will be on display for the more than 50,000 people flocking to the city's first national political convention.
Thanks, and can't wait to see you next year.
Fire
In the middle of a pandemic, Milwaukee looks good. Our closing words come from Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we've been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Blessed be. You're invited to close our time together by singing The Well. Newcomers are invited to stay put, and we'll have a newcomer chat using the chat box, and everyone is invited to coffee hour.